So we both got the iPhone 15 Pro, and it's been in the news that like they're overheating, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So have you noticed that at all?
I have not noticed that. I mean, I did maybe one time I noticed it, but I thought it was because I left the camera on,
Yeah.
right? And
So
the and maybe it was due to that or something, but I haven't really noticed it.
yeah, so they said it was a number of things that it could have been some apps like Uber where was running too
Oh.
fast and overheating the phone. Could be something. They said it wasn't anything to do with the USB-C port or charging, um, but I guess a
Hmm.
lot of people had the problem. I never had the problem, and I always wirelessly charge but if it was an issue with the USB-C charging. So I didn't notice that, but I was running a lot of speed tests. Like, so I did the Wi-Fi 6E speed test on the with the ECW 336. I was getting like 1.4 gigabits down, right? And I was
Yeah.
doing that multiple times. I was using iPerf, and mine never heated up. It never like felt that warm. It never shut down. So I wasn't really experiencing that problem.
Yeah. And
Um,
I'm just using this as normal. I'm not really doing any, occasional speed tests, but
yeah,
nothing really else.
normal use, charging and stuff. You haven't seen any problems. So
No, it always gets hot in the car.
yeah,
Like when I'm charging in the car.
that Tesla charger charges well though.
Yeah, but you never see that. You never see that message. I always see that my phone, maybe because I'm in the car for so long,
Yeah, because
that's
maybe
probably part of
maybe
it.
so that may be it. If you're in there charging for a long time, it'll start to heat up. Um,
Yeah.
but any
But that
rate,
was with the last phone as well, not
you
just this phone.
you saw that, yeah. So in California, maybe warm in there. You don't
No.
know. You have the air conditioning cranked, I'm sure. So anyway, they issued a fix in iOS 17.0.3. And some people, I was looking on Reddit, like some people were like, "Oh, they're just gonna slow it down." Like, so they're posting like their Geekbench results, and I did mine, and so the consensus is like it's running just as fast now as it was before, but a lot of these benchmarks don't give you like a real world view.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
a lot of these benchmarks are skewed, whatever. But it seems like they didn't slow it down. Whatever they did something to it. Maybe it does feel a little bit cooler. I don't know, but I never experienced the problem anyway. Um, so
Yeah, I
just
didn't either. I mean, I did. I mean, the update was when on Tuesday or
yeah.
Wednesday or yeah.
Yeah, I just applied it maybe like a couple days ago, and yeah, I didn't really notice much of a difference either way. Um, but anyway, the Wi-Fi 6E is working good in it, and we have the ECW 336 now in limited quantities right now. So
Yeah.
if anyone has an iPhone 15 Pro or Pro Max and they want to take advantage of that Wi-Fi 6E, definitely pick up a ECW 336 and check it out.
Yeah, so here's a question. I didn't think of this before, but here's a question. So, we talked about this yesterday. Okay, what are people going to install, right?
Yeah.
Remember talking about that yesterday? Like, what are the choices are, right? Right now the choices are Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 6E.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it really depends on your refresh, right? Your
Right.
refresh, like when, depending on like the environment, how often do these environments rip and replace for new technology, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's the refresh cycle.
Yeah.
And so I guess different industries have different refresh rates. Some are longer and some are shorter, right? So I guess the choice is like there's really only two choices, right? Wi-Fi 6E or Wi-Fi 6. So what do you think?
Um, it really depends. I mean, for new installs, yeah, I probably would do Wi-Fi 6E or even a mixture because you may not need 6E in all locations. Sorry about that. Getting busy already. You may not need 6E, in all locations. There's not going to be a ton of devices with the new iPhones rolling out, but only in the Pro series. Right
Yeah.
now, support the 6E, right, the 6 gigahertz band. So I could see if they rolled it out to every single iPhone, which will probably happen next year. Then definitely 6E, but it really depends, I guess, on budget, on what's your wired infrastructure look like. If is it going to be fast enough to support the 6E? Is it going to really make
Yeah.
a difference, right?
Yeah, I think most people are installing at least Cat 6 right
Yeah.
now,
Well,
right?
I mean switches too. Like you need multi-gig
And
to
switches, yeah.
you need like a multi-gig switch to take full advantage of 6E.
Well, if you think of it like an average environment of like 10 to 30 devices, like I'm not talking like IoT devices, I'm
Right.
talking like laptops, phones. I mean, what is your bandwidth going to be at that point when you
Right.
got
Right. Yeah.
10 to
I,
20
I mean,
devices?
I think it makes sense to install 6E going forward, but there's no issue installing Wi-Fi. If you have Wi-Fi 6 already, or maybe I'd keep adding to that using the same
Yeah.
access point, or put some Wi-Fi 6E in like areas where there's going to be a lot of work going on. I don't think it's going to really help that much, like in hallways, hotels,
Yeah.
and things like that, because the 6 gigahertz doesn't carry that far, right?
Well, we don't do hallways anyway,
We don't
right?
do hallways. Yeah, I mean, you got to put one AP per room, right? But think about like where you do those types of installs. I don't think you're gonna get a huge boost from 6 gigahertz like in your like general install area. It's got
Yeah,
to be
so like if I
closer
were
in.
if I were thinking about it, like I would think any area that's going to have a bring your own device kind of scenario, like a lobby,
Yeah,
then I would maybe consider it.
yeah,
But anybody in a lobby is not really utilizing. I mean, it's really cool that they connected to 6 gigahertz, but are they really utilizing it? I guess you're offloading pressure from 5 gigahertz to 6, so that would be the benefit there, right? And then I would put in conference rooms. Um, I mean, if you have the budget, you
do
might
it.
even,
Yeah,
if you're doing MDU, I would put them in like maybe in residential, but I don't know. You kind of have a half grin there.
yeah. I mean, I would put it in. Like I said, it depends. Like I put it in lobbies for sure because lobbies, conference areas, office space. It makes sense because you have you're gonna have a lot of devices in one area, so you want to utilize that extra band right whenever you can to
Right.
like ease congestion, like you said. So that it's not only for getting these like super fast speeds. It's a lot of it's for like business critical applications running in 6 gigahertz will always have the cleanest RF environment.
Yeah, yeah.
And we can also talk about like the ingenious security APs like ECW 230 and 230S and ECW 220S. I mean,
Yeah.
those also have scanning radios, so they can kind of analyze the environment on the 2.4 and the 5 and see like what's going on there. I mean, if so, it makes sense to throw a few of those in your network too, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the 230, the ECW 230S and the ECW 220S. Yeah, they have dedicated scanning radios, so you can utilize those radios in a number of different ways. You can use it for like wireless security
Mm-hmm.
purposes. You could use it for scanning the background, continuous scanning the background and moving your channels around, or you could use it for spectrum analysts. There's a spectrum analyzer built inside of that AP or those APs. You could use that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so there's a lot going on with that particular AP, and in fact, I would say most business applications, enterprise applications, I would probably introduce that AP in there. And those APs they're priced right now.
Yeah, I
They're
mean, they're priced along with the other enterprise APs that have a scanning radio and a spectrum analyzer in there, right?
and whips and widths.
Yeah. So because if you think about it, for the time being, like most clients are going to be on 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, right? Where the
Mainly 5 gigahertz,
maybe
right?
mainly 5 gigahertz and a lot of legacy devices on 2.4. So you want to have any tools in there you can to see what's going on in those two bands, and
Hmm.
then also layer in some 6E access points in those like high capacity areas where you're going to have the new iPhones, and lots
Yeah.
of them, right?
Yep. For
So
sure.
that's kind of the strategy I would take. But yeah, new installs probably 6E going forward, I would say. Because Wi-Fi 7 is still a way off to anything being ratified or any product being shipped and all that. Like business class product
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
sure.
that somebody here just ordered the new Pixel. That's going to be Wi-Fi
Yeah.
7. There are talks of the iPhone going Wi-Fi. No, I'm sorry, not the iPhone. There are talks of Apple going to Wi-Fi 7 next year
And
around
like
their Vision
oh
glasses.
yeah. So I think it's going to support 6E, the Vision Pro.
Yeah, Vision
It's
Pro.
going to be 6E for sure. So that's kind of why they put 6E into the iPhone, the Pro this year, right? So
Yeah.
I think those two are going to need to communicate, and they'll probably like do some Wi-Fi direct communications on 6 gigahertz. So yeah, probably the next version of that will be Wi-Fi 7, but that's too far out really to even think about right
Yeah.
now.
I would be shocked if they had anything with Wi-Fi 7 next year.
Apple won't do that. They're too cautious. They make sure that they'll let the Androids do it first and see what kind of problems they had, and make
Yeah.
sure the supply chain's there and all that before they do anything.
Yeah.
But they're on 6 gigahertz also. That's pretty awesome. Um, but yeah, I mean, and the other thing we wanted to say is that like if you do have that new Pixel phone or a device that says it supports Wi-Fi 7, it's going to be fully backward compatible with 6E, so it'll be able to connect to the 6E access points. Like
Yeah, that was another topic we were kind of discussing
yeah,
yesterday. Is if you're installing Wi-Fi 6E, like the ECW 336, even if you have new like the Pixel phone coming in,
yeah,
you won't be able to utilize the protocol, the Wi-Fi 7 protocols, but you'll be able to utilize the 6 gigahertz in Wi-Fi 6.
right.
So that's a big bonus. So you're taking care of the new iPhones, and you're also taking care of like those Wi-Fi 7.
Early adopter clients that are out there. They're
Yeah.
still going to be able to get those super fast speeds. They're not going to be able to combine the bands and do
Yeah,
some of the
no multi-link operation,
yeah,
no 300 megahertz wide channels, which you
right,
wouldn't use anyway. No higher modulation.
right.
That the more efficient channel use or frequency use.
Mm-hmm.
None of that stuff. Not until it's not more ratified, but ratified, I guess.
All right, so what's the message would be like? Don't be afraid of 6 gigahertz. Move to the ECW 336 or other
No,
Wi-Fi
no, no.
6E.
Be afraid of 6 gigahertz, and we'll just use 6 gigahertz.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, right now there's not hardly anything on there, right? So you're guaranteed a good connection. But as these iPhones start rolling out, the Pro models, there's going to be more and more capable devices out there, right?
That's right. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. On our network right now, we don't have a lot of clients on. There's two 6 gigahertz devices on there, and that's my phone and my laptop.
And how many at this time in the morning? How many 5 gigahertz devices on there?
It's super early, so not many. How many? There's only 15.
So already you have, even though not many people are there, you have 15 devices. You probably have even more on 2.4.
Well, no, that's what I was going to say. I'd look at a lot of networks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a lot of 2.4 gigahertz unless it's like maybe a warehouse scanning guns or something like that.
Internet of Things
I
devices.
typically, I have access to some private colleges. I have visibility to those, and just to give you a point of reference, I'm not going to share the screen or anything. It's going to take it a minute to spin up because there's so many. Okay, so here's a really good example. There's 1,300 devices on this one network right now.
Mm-hmm.
There is 1,122 on 5 gigahertz, and there's 232 on 2.4 gigahertz.
230. Got it. So those are probably the only device. They're probably too far from the AP to roam over to the 5 gigahertz.
Yeah,
something like that.
the first thing I would think of is like, oh, maybe the roaming is not, the placement of APs is not set correct. So there's some, or there may be, this campus is pretty large. There's about 30 buildings, I know. And yeah, so I mean, just that gives you an idea. I'd be very curious if there are 6 gigahertz on this network, how many 6 gigahertz devices we would see. We did a project, or one of our partners did a project a couple weeks ago at a fashion show. I think I brought this up before. I think there are 500 devices on there, and there was only one or two 6 gigahertz devices on there.
Yeah, it's gonna change. Like we'll be able to in a couple weeks. We'll see like how many of these 15 Pros get out there and how much
Yeah,
it changes. And there's not a huge number of Wi-Fi 6E access points out there either compared to Wi-Fi 6. So it'll be interesting. We find somebody that has deployed all ECW 336s. How many clients actually are on 6 gigahertz, right?
yeah, and I'm quickly trying to go through my my networks to go to look. Yeah, this particular network, there are 726 devices, 500, almost 600 are on 5, and 134 on 2.4. So there's more people on 2.4 on this network.
Yeah,
The
my
ratio is higher, I
like
should
if I
say
look
now.
at my my home network, there's a lot more 2.4 gigahertz devices because all Internet things, all I'm pretty much 2.4 still, right? Like,
Yeah,
some of them are starting to move to 5, but all these little devices still need to talk 2.4. And one last thing, like a lot of these older, make sure that you have a network that supports WPA2 for a lot of these older devices because some of them they won't support WPA3. Put it that way. You can't create a 2.4 gigahertz network and set it to WPA3 only and expect that these older devices are going to be connect. They won't. You'll get password errors. And I even noticed this on the Tesla that it only does WPA2 at this point.
yeah,
So if you have mixed is okay. Mixed is okay, but if you have a WPA3 only network, it won't connect.
that's right. Yep.
Yeah, so you have
Yeah,
to.
to operate on 6 gigahertz, it has to be
Yeah, six
WPA3.
gigahertz network has to be WPA3. It can be mixed, but it has to. You have to have it set to support WPA3. Some vendors won't even let it be mixed. It has to be WPA3.
Yeah, I think most vendors are going to be like that.
Yeah, so you're gonna end up having to create. I know we talked about this. Create one SSID that supports like all three bands. That is like WPA3 only, maybe, right? And then you
Yeah.
have to create another SSID that's going to support your legacy devices that are you could have it mixed WPA3 too.
Yep.
That's kind of what you're gonna have to do going forward, I think.
Yep. I agree.
Until you can get rid of all those devices, which is never going to happen the way that we see it. All right, Brian. Remember to like and subscribe. We'll be back next week. Post some questions in the comments.